I grew up in a seaside town in South Wales. I'm not going to give any names away. Um, I had quite a sort of colourful upbringing. I grew up in a newsagent's, surrounded by music and surrounded by characters. That definitely sort of the people who've influenced me sort of in my younger life. Yeah. I was heavily into the Beastie Boys, and me and a couple of my friends decided to sort of wreak havoc on our local town and steal every single VW sign off people's cars and vans. Obviously, being a small town and my dad being the local copper, someone got caught and grassed us all up, basically. So I remember having a knock on the door, and it was my dad with another police officer coming to search my house for VW signs, but I was a bit too clever and I hid them and denied all knowledge of it, and basically lied and said they're just blaming me because I'm a copper's son. There's quite a few of us all in the same year. We were all Swansea fans in a town where it was all Cardiff fans. So we had our own sort of little sort of firm, and we had to run the gauntlet a lot, especially when we got into our sort of mid-teens. Started going down to watch Swansea, and started hanging about with the boys down there at our age. We were all into the same music, clothes, very similar people, and a lot of them were Swansea's firm. They were called the Mini Angels, the TMA. So we sort of latched onto these guys, and that's how it all started. Yeah. It all started innocently, but obviously I was heavily influenced by the news at the time. I was quite obsessive with it. I sadly had a scrapbook with football hooligan incidents in it, which was found by my father. Yeah, he wasn't quite pleased about that, as you can imagine. But yeah, it was something in the background. It was a subculture that I sort of gravitated to, But it was a fashionable thing to do, It was youth culture, and especially in South Wales, it was a very sort of depressing time. But the sort of mid to late 80s was also a very exciting time as far as music and subculture was concerned. So it was a subcultural sort of, when it belonged to a subculture, which was working class. It was people who were into music. It was like this, or it was all people who were into the same things in life. Camaraderie, and sort of belonging to a tribe. So it's that sort of deep-seated instinct that men have still. We grew up in a seaside town. We sort of like turned it into Brighton on quite a few occasions. We all hung around the fairground. It was our turf. There was always fighting. We had one of the biggest caravan parks in Europe there. So our town sort of swelled to sort of triple the size every summer. Back in the heydays of the 70s and the 80s, when people still holidayed, locally, and you'd have some rough people sort of coming on holiday from or big miners, or we were defending our sort of our little patch down there, really. But didn't go to plan quite a lot of the times, going to be Cardiff City and Bristol City. To be honest, because there would always be numbers there, and it would always kick off, especially back in the 80s and the 90s. You know, definitely. Bristol City, 2000. Halloween night. Bristol City turned up in Swansea early. They're proper firm, really good, but took over one of our sort of Scarfer pubs, you know, full of people having a drink. Smashed a few windows, smashed it up really. Hit lots of civilians. There was no sort of contact beforehand to say like, "Oh, we're coming down." They turned up and surprised us. And but by the end of the match, it was a different story. It was like Swansea's seafront. I've never seen so many people. It wasn't just hooligans. Like, it was just half of Swansea were turning up just to fill Bristol in after what they did in the Potter's Wheel. It was complete mayhem. The police didn't categorise it properly either. So it was just like supposedly a normal evening Tuesday match. It was in October. There was a lot of the B&Bs closed down for the winter. All skips outside, full of rubble. The police and the Bristol City vans, they've never stood a chance. I reckon there was about 800 Swansea running up, chasing the police up Swansea, up Oystermouth Road, past the prison. I've never seen anything like it. There's police coming in from all over South Wales for about 2 hours afterwards. Yeah, the Bristol City's coaches got smashed up. They had to get a special train down there for them. They had a proper shoe-in, to say the least. Yeah. I got arrested. I very nearly probably should have gone to jail a couple of times. I got arrested for putting a brick through a police car after a Huddersfield match. I think that was about 1990. Got arrested again. This was in 1990 as well. Cardiff and Swansea, Easter Sunday. I think it was Easter Sunday, 1990. We took a mob up to Cardiff. We had a bus. There's a load of vans early in the morning. Drove into Barry and had the train up from Barry, and went up to Cardiff via there. Well, there was no police there. They didn't know we turned up. All of a sudden, we were in Grangetown, and Cardiff turned up, all kicking off. We got took to the stadium, but then after the match, they took us to the train station and just left us to our own devices to go down to Barry to get our bus. Well, obviously, half of Cardiff followed us, and what ensued then was, that's one of the best Cardiff and Swansea offs. I'm sure there's a lot of Cardiff fans who still deny it to this day, but we all got nicked then though. But we all got escorted to Barry Police Station. There wasn't enough cells. I think there was about 150 of us all together, and they locked us all in the canteen in Barry Police Station. So you can imagine there was just hundreds. That's what is quite funny. We all thought, oh shit, we're going to get done for violent disorder. They're just going to process us one by one. We'll probably be here for days. But luckily, the police thought it was far too much paperwork and let us go. Growing up, I had a realization after that sort of game, because it was touch and go whether a lot of people were arrested after that Bristol City match, and it was a time in my life. I was not far off 30, and I was thinking, I woke up the next day thinking, what the fuck was I fucking doing last night? And it was a realization. And after that, I stopped going down there. I didn't go down there for probably nearly 10 years afterwards. So I lost touch with a lot of people down there. But I went to work in Swansea then, and I was a tailor. So I was Swansea City's personal tailor. I did their suits for their, the team suits. I did that for 3 seasons, and I sort of started watching them again then, and my kids were sort of really into it. We all become they become Swansea fans. So yeah, it was a family thing. So the actual hooliganism element of it, even though it's always there, you never lose that. If when you're talking to guys my age who used to do it, it's always talked of fondly, sort of halcyon days of 80s and 90s hooliganism. It's cliched, I suppose, but yeah, that's what it is. But a lot of guys I know are still, they're right into it. Me and one of my best mates, he was still in school. I just left, and funny enough, it was boys from down the road told, but they were Cardiff fans. But we were all sort of getting into house music and rave music. So it was the start of this almost like a truce between Cardiff and Swansea. And he said, "Oh, do you want to help organise this rave?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was all over it. So I got my mate in tow, and hardly anybody where I lived at the time, apart from my sort of close group of friends, were into raves or anything like that. So we took a load of tickets off them, and we said, "All right, we'll sell them down here and sort of promote it down here." And yeah, my mate sold them to some kids in school, and at the time you can imagine the press. It was, I think this was 1989 or 1990. It was Thatcher's Britain still, and there was this evil acid cult. All of a sudden had come to our sleepy seaside town. So yeah, he got picked up in school by the police. Again, my dad was involved. I got arrested. Someone come to arrest me in work. I was working in a shitty steel mill at the time. It was a horrible job. I thought I was brilliant, though. I thought it was the bravado of it all. Like, but then we were threatened with tax evasion because that's the only thing they could sort of pin on us, because they didn't know where the venue was going to be. That was going to be a last minute thing. It was very sort of cloak and dagger. It's quite organised for a bunch of teenagers and guys in their early 20s who've never done it before. Oh yeah, it was kicking off. Yeah, 1990 it started kicking off really in Swansea. Yeah. We had it was renowned in Swansea. It was a club called Martha's Vineyard. It was on the Kingsway, and on a Monday night it was a soul night there. And in the 80s, people would come from Newport, Cardiff. They come down from Bristol because they'd have sort of like 80s soul DJs playing there. It was renowned. And then all of a sudden, about 1989, they sort of cottoned on to sort of like a lot of the house music, and a couple of their DJs started playing house music, and then a lot of the hip hop DJs at the time in Swansea, one of them, DJ Lomas, he switched over to rave, and he became one of the biggest rave DJs in the southwest. No, definitely didn't. It did for about, in London, it started it started diminishing in the second summer of love, but end of '89, and it's like something that spread through the UK. Up north, there was a similar, exactly same thing going up north as well. All of a sudden, it was those guys, the hooligans, the B boys, all of a sudden everybody started getting into this this house music, and then it turned to rave, and then about 1990, that's when it started. Football, I could go to a club in Cardiff and not get chased out. Do you know what I mean? There was a all of a sudden there's a different mindset amongst everybody, and because Swansea had some of the best clubs, and Swansea had some of the first raves. There's a place called Dirty Doras, the Marina night spot, and it had always sort of been this sort of sleazy club of Swansea. You could go in there and you could have a joint in there. Loads of hippies doing acid, listening to Hawkwind. It was that sort of kind of venue. It was really cool, really cool. And then someone decided to put a rave on there, and a lot of Cardiff turned up, but just within the vicinity of Swansea, you've got Neath and Talbot, which are Cardiff strongholds, which is quite bizarre. Well, a lot of those guys were like, "Oh, there's a rave on in Swansea." Sort of, a load of Cardiff turned up. This would have been unheard of even a year before, and there was a bit of opposition. There was a couple of fights, a couple of blades pulled on each other, but the next rave, there was two DJs from Cardiff come down. I think it was DJ Silver, and I think it was it might have been it might have been Santos or Lions. I'm not too sure. In the midst of time, this was 1990, and I'd taken a lot of acid that night as well. Like, so, my recall is sort of flaky to say the least. But then that rave there was no fighting at all, and there was a few raves through the summer then in Swansea. There was a few in Cardiff, and everybody was going to them. And there was a club down Newport called Rudy's. People were going down there. So all of a sudden, South Wales sort of opened up. There was no sort of the guys you'd be at each other's throats. Usually, you were all on the dance floor with each other. It sounds cliche, but it was exactly like that. And then Swansea had its first big rave. It was called Pulse, beginning in 1991, and there's people from everywhere. There's Bristol, Cardiff, Newport. I'd never seen anything like it. It was people that we'd been sort of fighting with, previously, and all of a sudden everybody was pilled up. Ecstasy had got to Wales sort of end of 1990, 91. Previously to that, everyone was off their heads on industrial strength whiz and acid. So that's never a good combination. But when the pills come, yeah, it was sort of everybody was literally loved up, and that carried on for a few years. I'm really good mates with a lot of Cardiff fans. Obviously, living where I do, most of my mates are Cardiff fans. But that period of time, yeah, it did. It sort of diminished. But then about 1990, 95, or perhaps 96, everything sort of, got back to normal. But Swansea and Cardiff hadn't been playing each other, But that sort of vitriol sort of come back. Fucking, Cardiff, fucking, yeah. Yeah. But by the end of the 90s, it was back to normal. One of my best mates now. He was in an organised crime family, and I'm not going to sort of beat about the bush. Successful business people now, but they were involved in shifting a lot of Charlie, and I sort of I was on the sort of periphery of it all. I was banging a bit out as well. I was taking bits here, taking bits there, going into a lot of violence with it, a lot of violence, but that is one of the reasons why I sort of stopped. My sort of violent streak started going. It was still there a couple of years later, but after stuff I'd witnessed, it was like, oh, right, no, there's a conscience in me somewhere. As a young man, you don't think about sort of the gravity of situations at the time. It was camaraderie of being involved in this group of people, but also it was protection as well. There's a lot of serious characters surrounding me, who I become very good friends with, and I'm still good friends with some of them now. Yeah, that was because of he was a complete lunatic and had some complete lunatics working for him. Well, they were madder than him, just put it that way. And yeah, he ripped them off, and we were all out one afternoon, bank holiday afternoon, Swansea, and it all come on top. It was just a huge, it was a massive fight, but they wanted to get their own back on this person, and in doing so, they caught my my best mate. He's on the floor, and they repeatedly stamped on his head, until he had blood coming out of his eyes, nose, and ears. And yeah, he was in a coma for about 2 months. He had to have a frontal lobotomy. Yeah, we were all involved in an attempted murder investigation because they were trying to say it was rival drug firms taking over territory, but it wasn't. It was all the same people. But it was, yeah, it was a revenge thing that went horribly wrong. And yeah, I got, oh God, we all got sort of arrested and interrogated. I was in Swansea Central Police Station for about 12 hours. Yeah, it was a horrible experience. Yeah, terrible. And it was one of the sort of things that sort of sent me on a different path. It was, that year, my mate was, it was touch and go. We didn't. I thought he was going to die, but thank fuck for the surgeons in Morriston Hospital. They saved his life. Family, yeah, having kids and a mortgage, and there's nothing worse than waiting for the police to come and arrest you for something that you've done, and fingers crossed. And touch wood, I was sort of evaded capture, but that feeling lingers on with you. You always got that anxious feeling. Your dreams. You think you're waking up and the police are arresting you. These invasive thoughts. It's all caused by that behaviour. Yeah. So I'd had enough of feeling like that. So I thought, right, okay, yeah, time to sort of get my act together, and sort of I steered myself away from it, really. Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Well, that was going on from when I was 14. Yeah, when I was 14, I started seriously drinking and sort of doing solvents, bonging. By the time I was 15, where geographically where we live, we've got the best magic mushrooms in the world. So obviously, we had the knowledge imparted down to us from older cousins, brothers, and where the best mushrooms were around here. So by the time we were 15, we were all doing crazy amounts of mushrooms. Not very good for the sort of the evolving mind of a teenager. Uh, Different experience with mushrooms altogether now. But I had a very terrible time in school because of my learning difficulties. Uh, I got. It's only been uh, diagnosed later on in life, but obviously back in the 80s, in a comprehensive setting, if you were naughty, had behavioural problems, or you were slow with reading, writing, and spelling, they put you in the remedials. So obviously, I had this terrible perception of myself that I was, you know, a remedial. And it's sort of when you're sort of half intelligent, that I like to think I am. It was humiliating, but not only humiliating. Uh, these class settings were just loads of broken kids. It was fucking horrifying. It was to be mental, the stuff that went on in these classes. And the teachers were, they, as far as they were concerned, you were just naughty kids. Just chuck them all in the fucking same room and let them fucking batter and fucking do whatever to each other. I never learned anything. That was for fucking sure. But I carried this big chip on my shoulder, which it was just humiliation, basically, and it sent me on a trajectory from when I left school, which was very destructive as far as my behaviour towards substances and alcohol was concerned. I'd definitely say had a pretty bad alcohol habit by the time I was in my early 20s. I'd probably drinking every night, but not because of I was looking for it. That's what people did every night. You'd go and meet down the pub and a few games of pool, but it was never that with us. It was a few games of pool and a few lines of Charlie to go with it, because that was all about everywhere. Doing pills on a Tuesday night, and it was just the weekends sort of turned into the weeks, if you know what I mean. And that went on for years and years and years, long time. And then in my 30s, my health deteriorated quite sort of badly, physically and mentally. I sort of everything caught up with me. And found out I was diabetic, massive ulcer, hypertension. I'd really smashed my body into pieces, and yeah, that's when I realised what I'd sort of become like. Yeah. Yeah, that was on my stag do. What I know is now is a sort of nearly a diabetic coma. That's what had happened to me, but as well as all of the sort of drugs, I'd been doing coke non-stop since the Friday morning in Cardiff Airport. We were doing it on the way to Amsterdam on the plane when it had become the real Mile High Club, higher mile up. Like, got to Schiphol Airport. We had to wait for some more of my friends to come bang on it, and this just carried on until Saturday afternoon. Uh, and at this point, then I must have had I must have had a fit because my blood sugar must have been. I don't even know how much I drunk. I hadn't eaten. My blood sugar, I would say, now because I've sort of felt that since must have been in the late 20s. Um, and I don't know what happened, but I just passed out, and I woke up then. You know, I don't believe in God, but thank God I woke up. But that was such a frightening experience. Uh, but I didn't sort of realize how bad it was until uh, uh, about 2 weeks later, and I was I was getting sicker and sicker. And I thought, oh my God, this is the worst come down off drugs ever. I'm not taking drugs anymore ever again. Right? Yeah, I I managed to go to the doctor a couple of months later and found out I was diabetic. I'm quite severely diabetic as well, with hypertension. I was probably lucky I didn't go into a coma or have a massive heart attack or stroke. Uh, I've had sort of three turning points in my life where I've gone to get help. Uh, but the third one was the turning point for me. I lost my mum to cancer about 2 years before, and I sort of had a massive breakdown, and I was self-medicating, drinking every day, uh, smoking massive amounts of weed, um, and taking prescription meds as well. Prozac, gabapentins, like it's just my body was just yeah. I was just trying to numb myself, and it did numb it. But then obviously you can't behave like that if you're diabetic because you get worse. And I'd gone to see my consultant, diabetic consultant, and before you go to see them, 2 weeks before, you have a full blood works done, kidney and liver function, all sorts of blood sugar, obviously. And he come back and he just said, he goes, "All right, Mr. We can see on you now your liver's becoming fatty. The numbers for the proteins and stuff in your liver and kidney are through the roof." He said, "How much you drinking?" And I sort of like, he's like, "Oh yeah, right. You know, you're sort of, this is alcoholism." And I knew myself. It's more habitual, you know. Is more habitual, and sort of alcoholism is such a broad term. Not everyone's an alcoholic if they drink all the time. People will become habitual with the drinking. Uh, but I went back to a group that I'd helped set up sort of 8 years previous, and there's still a lot of the guys there who I knew, which was amazing. And yeah, that's the best thing I did. For sure, yeah, definitely. Uh, I'm well. I actually on the course I've been doing. I'm there's quite a lot of people my age there with some good life experience, and a lot of lecturers. They do love someone talking about their life, especially if it's uh, something to do with the subject matter in the module. I can talk about crime, not in a theoretical sense. I can talk about it in a real sense that I've committed crime. I've got away with a lot of crime. I know how to be a criminal, uh, and a lot of criminologists, especially the lecturers, they're interested in that. So yeah, it's definitely given me an edge. I know more about crime than a lot of the lecturers. Right, I'm a support worker. Uh, there's been a homeless hostel in my hometown for the past 15 years, and I know people who've worked there. Uh, and I've got a background in voluntary work and substance misuse. So a lot of the people I sort of worked with over the years are my age or older, and a lot of people are sort of quite, broken, and sometimes they're not going to get themselves better. They're just sort of existing day to day, trying not to, harm themselves. But working with youngsters is a lot more rewarding. So first of all, I was just sort of like doing a night shift there, here and there, but obviously I've been able to impart my experience as a youth delinquent, and sort of, I can, what's the word, identify with a lot of these kids, and as soon as I started doing the job, I could, I felt something. I was like, oh yeah, right, okay, yeah, this is where I should be. Some of these kids, they don't all take your advice. Believe me, I got three kids. They don't, they do take my advice sometimes, but in a professional setting, I can speak to them, and they like honesty. Young kids like teenagers. They want someone to say, fuck's sake, what are you fucking doing? You need to tone it down now. Uh, and yeah, I found I'm quite good at it. It's not that I enjoy it, and you can see a change in someone's life. But yeah, I did do it just to get some extra money while I was in uni. Working. I was supposed to go to Australia to see my eldest son, but he's informed us now he has to do 9 weeks agricultural work to extend his visa. So when we go out there, he's going to be up to his neck in potatoes, apparently, and somewhere in South Australia. So we're going to go and have a holiday somewhere, but I'll be getting ready to do my masters. So I know what I'm going to be doing for my dissertation. I'm going to be doing about harm reduction and drug consumption rooms. So my main focus this year is my masters.